Yeah, it was inevitable. The Eagles bail out on playing Saquon Barkley and hence most of their starters in this final meaningless game against the New York Giants. And listen, if I sat here and complained that Saquon Barkley is not going to get a chance to break the record, I would look like a total idiot. So let me look like a total idiot. I think he should have played on Sunday to try to break the record. My opinion does not change. We're here with Bill and Ray. And, of course, both of them said, oh, you got to be cautious. You got to rest these guys. You got to give them their own bye. And I can't argue against that. That's not going to be beneficial. So, again, I am willing to be the village idiot today because I think that would have been a golden moment that you could have etched in Philadelphia sports history. And I also looked at the bright side of it, which is not only can you have that, but you can have this. Now, there were some people that were afraid of when you attempt to have this, you can't have that. So I get it. I understand. The prudent thing to do for the Eagles was to sit out all their starters, including a guy who had a chance to break an all-time record. Now, my only reading into this is that I think he really wanted to play. When you look at the quotes, and I'll just read the quotes here. He asked me if I wanted to go for it, Barkley said, meaning that the head coach, Nick Sirianni, which we talked about last week. If you're a head coach and you ask a guy whether he wants to go for it, of course he is going to say yes. And then he is going to get enticed by the idea. So I thought it was a bad thing to go to Barkley because you know that he's not going to say no. So he says, I said on Sunday that I probably didn't care too much for it, but then I slept on it. I said it was an opportunity to put my name in football history. I may never get another opportunity like that again. So I'm down. But at the end of the day, I don't care for putting the team at risk. And he goes on to say, my reaction was, I told my family, and obviously my family probably wanted it a little more than me. Well, guess what? That's pretty important. But at the end of the day, the most important thing is winning football games and going to the playoffs, and I've got a bigger goal in mind, and that is so noble for Saquon Barkley to say. However, I feel a little bit cheated. As an Eagle follower, as an Eagle fan, and there was a column today by Mike Sealski, and I wish he would have committed more to the point that Barkley should have played, but he kind of went back and forth on his opinion on whether this, because he writes, I'm not suggesting the Eagles are making the wrong decision here. I'm suggesting they are passing up one shot in immortality for another, and they might end up with neither. And had they done it, they could have ended up with both. And Bill, you know me. I want it all. And so I'm disappointed that Saquon Barkley is not going to play and try to break a record because later on when he talked about it, he said, yeah, you think about it, and it's a record that probably stand out there for another 40, 50 years, and that's pretty significant. And I'm reading between the lines, and I think he thinks that he's passing up an opportunity that will never come to him again, and that leaves a little bit of a mark.
Yeah, I feel for Saquon, and I don't disagree with you. As a player, especially a professional athlete that's as competitive as Saquon Barkley, of course he wants the record. And I'm sure he's going to regret when he looks back at the season that he was this close and he didn't have an opportunity. But when you take a step back and you look at this in its entirety and you think about what's best for the Philadelphia Eagles going forward, resting the players was the right decision. They have not had a bye week since week 5. It's not just about the injuries that can happen, which is a factor. I looked at the last 14 Super Bowl winners. I went and did the research. 14 Super Bowl winners. None of them had a bye week as early as week 5. The earliest of the last 14 was week 7, and that's when they've only played 16-game seasons. You got to go all the way back to 2009. The New Orleans Saints won the Super Bowl having a bye week in week 5. And guess what? They rested their starters the final week of the season, and they had a first-round bye in the playoffs. This week, being able to use this as a bye week is a luxury that they had to take advantage of to give them the best shot. Doesn't guarantee it, but gives them the best shot.
Let's look at the fan aspect of this, though. Because any idiot could sit here and say, well, it's very prudent that Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman decided they had the best interest of their franchise. But their franchise is held in trust. The fans really own the franchise, no matter what you want to say on who pays the bills and who the teams in the city play in trust for the fans. And I know it's hard to grasp that, but that happens to be the truth. And so I'm looking at this column that asks the question, why do we watch sports? You watch because your investment isn't financial, but emotional. You love your team, you love a particular player, and here's the key. You want to witness something thrilling and affecting. You want a moment. This would have been a tremendous moment that belonged to the fans, not to Barkley, but to all the fans who would beam with pride that for the next 40 or 50 years, they could say that their player set the all-time rushing record. And I do not believe you should deprive a fan base of that kind of moment, just like you shouldn't deprive the fan base of a moment where a guy takes a no-hitter into the 8th inning and his pitch count's a little high, and you can go all the way down the line in sports because the moments belong to the fans at the end of the day. Now, unless you can look into a crystal ball and tell me the Eagles playing on Sunday against the Giants and Barkley playing on Sunday against the Giants is going to prevent them from winning a Super Bowl, then I will take the chance to get the moment. That's where I stand on it.
And I understand the point. You're right. Fans watch for moments, but the ultimate goal is always a championship. And you're saying, unless you can say with absolute certainty that them playing in Week 18 would have prevented them from winning the Super Bowl, but you got to set yourselves up for the best possible shot. So what if, and you hate this argument because you're going to say it's a Negadelphia attitude, but what if they did play on Sunday and, God forbid, Saquon or one of the offensive linemen goes down?
I don't play what ifs. I don't play what ifs. What ifs is negative thinking. I don't play what ifs because it may not happen. You're counting on something happening as a what if. It doesn't make sense to me.
In this scenario, I think you have to consider what if because that's part of the reason they're resting the starters. It's not only like I'm saying because they haven't had a bye in so long. You're resting the starters because you can't take the risk of an injury.
What if nothing happens?
I don't play what ifs.
What if nothing happens and you get the record, nothing happens, and you got that golden moment, and my God, you go into the playoffs with that kind of fury. How about that what if?
That is certainly a possibility. But I think that the coaching staff and Howie Roseman and probably Jeffrey Lurie all had to make a tough decision here, which was we have to give ourselves the best chance come playoffs. You cannot take a risk in a meaningless football game.
Do you have a snore sound effect? Right? You play the snore sound effect for this argument. But what if? Oh, but what if? Well, what if nothing happens?
Well, let me ask you that.
I can throw the what if right back in your face and your trimmed beard.
But what
by
about?
The way.
Oh yeah, I'm starting to take it down. I told you the new year it's coming down.
The beard is trimmed today, folks.
What about that? What about that stat that I just gave you, though? I mean, that you have to go all the way back to 2009, talking 14 Super Bowl winners. None of them had a bye week before Week 7.
Every year is different. Every year is different. Who's to say that stat applies to this particular team? Again, it's scared money that you play with. Scared money.
Would you agree, though, that this team, having been playing meaningful games for the last 12 weeks, probably could have used a little bit of a week? Like, this is going to help them rest up and be fresh for the playoffs. That is a truth. What you're saying is the record was important enough to you and should have been important enough to the team because of the fan base that they say it doesn't matter that they needed any rest. It doesn't matter that we could take advantage of this week and it's a luxury to have it. We're going to throw caution to the wind and we're just going to go for the record. That's what you wanted to see them do, essentially. Right? Say, forget it.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think he wanted to do it?
I think he did.
Okay. You think you owe it to him?
Owe it to him? No.
Oh, you don't owe it to him.
No, because
You don't owe it to a guy who
him.
got within 100 yards of an all-time record. You don't owe it to him to get that record?
It's not just him. Because now what you're asking him to do is, hey, listen, Saquon, if you really want this, that means Lane Johnson doesn't get a rest.
You don't think all those guys would have been on board? You hear Mailata, what he's been saying this whole time? Didn't you think that would have been a source of personal pride that those guys could have for the next 40 and 50 years?
Yeah, they could have.
Oh, man.
It's still the right decision.
All right, whatever. I have to live with it. The decision's done. I don't have to be happy with it.
Well, I'm curious to hear. We got a long list of guests today. I'm curious to hear their opinions.
We do have some guests, including arguably the best running back, maybe the second best. Old school guys will go, Wilbur Montgomery. Brian Westbrook will join us at 11:15. We'll get his spin on this whole thing. We'll have a scouting report on the Giants today. Well, Jordan Renan.
Yeah, more of a what is the take in New York on whether Saquon should have gone.
Take in New York?
Yeah, I don't know what the scouting report is
today. Let's get the scouting report from Jordan Renan against the Eagles C team on Sunday. And what, Sunshine's joining us?
Yeah, what do you think his opinion on this is?
1 o'clock, John Clark? What is this, from Sunshine class? What's
Johnny Sunshine? I bet you he wanted the record.
All right, we'll ask Sunshine about his whole spin, too. Here's how you get in. 610-632-0975. On the other side, I'm going to rip Mike Sealski. He's a buddy of mine. We're going to rip him. Mike Missanelli Show continues.
Vacation.
Hey guys, thanks for checking out our video. If you want more from the Mike Missanelli Show, somewhere on this screen, there is somewhere where you can hit the playlist. Keep interacting with us.